Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting night of Risen Esports. Today, we have a couple of games for you today. I'm just looking over the teams. We are currently in the lobby getting ready to get into the game. I am your play-by-play caster for tonight. My name is Mark Rafa Arambide, and I have my wonderful co-caster. Why don't you give a little introduction for yourself, my friend?
Hey guys, my name is Andre Fishfoodsian, and I will be your color caster for today's game.
All right, so Fish Food, what do we have for tonight's first game?
We have the first featured Rampage game of the season. So we got ourselves a little mini tournament going on this weekend for both Rampage Dominant and Champions League 2, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so, oops, that was a little bit I say. So yeah, today we are first featuring our Rampage show match. So we are just about to get into the draft. Rafa, what do you expect to see here? Do you think that we're going to be seeing some competitive compositions here, or do you guys think that we're going to see a little bit more of a lighthearted, funny compositions?
You know, I would love to have a sure answer. Unfortunately, this is my first cast for Risen Esports, but just looking overall at the experience of the players that we have tonight, I'm probably going to say that they have a good enough understanding to know which champions are competitively good, but I will not say that it will be most likely meta compositions and champions across the board. I'm more than positive that we will be seeing some more fun champions, such as Yasuo. Maybe we'll see some Aurelia, since that hasn't really been seen yet at the pro play yet. I'm more than certain as well that people won't be really picking for a true composition. Some people might just want to pick some of their comfort champions. And just looking at the bans already, other than the Swain, I don't really think any of these bands. Okay, well, the Sejuani just came up, so those kind of two bands are a little more of the meta competitive side. Xin Zhao, not really seen at the higher ends of the competitive play except for a few games, but is a huge solo queue stomper.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like that both teams are trying to prioritize the bot lane and the first set of bans, as well as a little bit of the jungle. And instantly we have a Dr. Mundo locked in for Team 23. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Dr. Mundo got a huge buff this patch. If you saw, he went from 40, 50, 60% total health regeneration whenever he pops the sadism to 60, 80, and 100% max health regeneration. That is just insane. It surely will help him or allow him to survive longer in team fights. But tell me, this Caitlyn Morgana bot lane, we've seen it at the pro play. What makes this bot lane so strong, Fish Food?
Oh, I'm absolutely not surprised at all on seeing that grabbed up. The Caitlyn Morgana, it just offers so much early game damage when it comes to bullying out your lane opponent. Between the amount of CC they have with Morgana, can lock down. If you can manage to land that Q, and Caitlyn can just follow up with the trap and get that instant headshot proc, you're just going to be completely shoving out your opponents in lane. And Team 23 looks like that they're lucky in the Jarvan and the Ashe for the next two picks.
Oh, man. Jarvan 4 and Ashe. Both champions bring a good amount of crowd control, which is definitely needed after you pick a champion like Mundo. Can be very tanky in the late game, but other than the cleavers, doesn't really provide any crowd control at all. In fact, the cleaver just slows for 20% at all ranks, so definitely needs some initiation setup from the Cataclysm and the Crystal Arrow. And the final pick for the first round is going to be the Ornn, most likely in the top lane. It's a pretty good tank to match up against the Mundo, but one thing that I'm afraid about, if by picking a tank into the Mundo, that Mundo is going to be able to get through the laning phase real easily and won't be really punished. And once he gets a Spirit Visage, maybe even Warmogs or Sunfire Cape if he wants some extra damage, that Mundo is going to be really hard to kill and deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. After these first set of picks, I wouldn't be surprised to see both teams starting to prioritize bans over in the mid lane right now, considering that we haven't seen any mid lane champions in the bans or the picks aside from the Swain. So of course, yep, there we see the Andy ban right there, and also an Ivern ban. I'm a bit surprised on that one.
Yeah, no, normally you don't even see Ivern at the highest level of play. He did get some buffs this patch that help a little bit with his ganking power. They increase the missile width on his root collar, as well as they decrease the amount of health it takes from his maximum health pool whenever he starts a camp, and they increase his farming speed on his passive. But if you don't see Ivern at the highest levels of play, then I wouldn't understand why you would see it in normal levels of play. But maybe they did some scouting, did some research. Maybe someone's an Ivern one trick. You know, you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Ivern's one of those champions where it's not exactly easy to pick up. He definitely has a really high learning curve and a high skill ceiling. So I'm not sure if Star Heaven is Ivern main himself, but clearly they feel comfortable enough to take that out.
All right, and after the Echo and Ari bans, pretty scary assassins once they get rolling. We have the Vi lock in for the jungle on Team FU side, and Team 23 is going to lock in the Talia for the mid lane and Braum in the bot lane potentially. There's still 18 seconds on the clock. They could change it to something else, but if that Braum is locked in, Fish Food, these guys have a bunch of CC, and actually, we're going to wait. We're going to see what actually is locked in here.
I would have loved to see the Freljord bot lane. And it looks
Oh,
like
you
there
get your
it is.
wish. Hey.
Freljord bot lane. That's going to be a lot of slows and CC down there. So, although the Ashe Braum is more of a scaling lane in the bot lane, while the Morgana Caitlyn is more aggressive in the bot lane, the Braum can definitely hold his ground to keep that Ashe alive in those early parts of the game.
All right. And that final lock-in for Team FU is going to be the Orianna. Pretty good jack of all trades mid laner, has the shield from Command Protect to be able to have some utility in the late game, along with the crowd control from the Shockwave. And then added on top of that, you also have some pretty significant burst damage if you get that combo off. Now, looking at these two overall team compositions, Fish Food, who has the better early advantage at this point?
I would well, here's the thing. Because it looks like if you look at Team 23, they don't have that much hyper carry potential aside from maybe the Ashe if they push the game past 30-35 minutes, and then the Talia. So I would assume that the Jarvan would be opting for more of a bruiser kind of build, like going maybe even a little bit of lethality. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. So I definitely think that in the laning phase, as far as roams and ganks, that the Jarvan and the Talia would definitely be able to use that to their advantage. While as far as the lanes themselves, I would not be surprised to see the Caitlyn and the Orianna and Ornn take dominance of the lanes.
Indeed. We're going to have to see how well the Jarvan paths around the early game to kind of bypass that early lane disadvantage that the Ashe and the Braum have. But the nice thing is they do have a lot of CC to set up for the ganks. So if they can bait out the Black Shield early on, maybe that's a good gank setup.
Yeah, absolutely. But as we move towards the mid game, it definitely looks like that the Orianna, Ornn, Morgana, Vi, they definitely have a really good team fight setting up there with that. If they can chain their CC on anyone on Team 23, then they're just going to absolutely get annihilated in those fights. While it looks like Team 23 has more of a pick comp with the Ashe Arrow and the Jarvan. If Jarvan comes in from the side and catches Caitlyn or Orianna that steps up too far, that could just be a free kill for Team 23.
Sounds about right. Before we continue in our draft discussion, we want to give a huge shout out to our man. It's a 10-month sub. Let's just see. Major1224. Thank you so much, my friend, for continuing being a loyal sub. This is his 10th month, ladies and gentlemen. So this is honestly incredible to be continuing to stay with Risen Esports so long. So Major1224, thank you so much, my friend.
Let's see the Pog champs in the chat.
All right.
Now, something that I would be interested to see is I believe that there was some nerfs to Caitlyn this most recent patch, correct?
Yeah, I believe they targeted her ability to crit upon or so the way that if I read it correctly, headshots no longer crit on non-minions or turrets. Or I guess
Correct.
so. Yeah, the way it's worded is kind of weird when you look at it first glance. But the overall gist that I got of it, and I want to check this by you, fish food, just to make sure this is clear. But does that mean that just decreases her overall kind of like pushing power?
I would assume so, yes, because she's not going to be doing that much damage towards those siege minions and those turrets anymore. Because part of what made her siege potential so well was that you could actually be critting down those either the super minions or even the cannon minions. So definitely take at least an extra auto attack or two in there, which might give Ash a little bit of time to start pushing those waves in as well.
We'll have to see if Fizzy Kizit and Laniac 103, that is the bot lane on the blue side here. Let's see if they can play around the fact that the Caitlyn has now not as oppressive as before. They still have to play around that, as you mentioned before, Fish Food, that dark binding into trap combo. Practically stuck for a million years, what it seems like whenever that does happen to you. But going back to your kind of discussion or suggestion on Godhog, the Jarvan going into more of a bruiser build, I actually kind of agree with you there because, like you said, if Trent on this Orianna and Star Heaven on Vi are able to just duo up, they have a strong pick composition. In fact, even if you pair it up with Macro's Morgana, you hit a Dark Binding, that should be an easy kill setup into Vi's ultimate as well. And if you are able to annihilate Fizzy Kizit or Noble, and Godhog happens to go for a full tank build, then there's really no damage dealers that you have to worry about in a preceding team fight or skirmish.
Exactly. So Team 23 is definitely relying on this lead to get ahead early. If she doesn't get ahead early, Team 23 could be in some serious trouble. And one thing I just noticed by looking at the champ select is that Morgana decided to take Exhaust instead of Ignite, which is a little bit surprising to me, considering that I would have assumed that Morgana would take Ignite to try to secure that kill early on the Ashe of the Braum, considering how aggressive their lane is.
I agree. And you could definitely set up for an early first blood in the level 1 or level 2 all-in scenario if you get that early push in. So maybe Macro's decision is just centered on the fact that he's suspecting that Godhog will predictably path towards the bot side if that is his early game plan. And maybe they just want to have the exhaust to have some defensive options in that early part of the game. We'll have to see how it actually does play out.
Yeah, and especially since that Team 23 has a Mundo on their team as well. I would not be surprised to see Caitlyn after she completes her second item, maybe even halfway through her second item, that she would opt for that Executioner's Calling just to shut down that Mundo.
Yeah, that would be something that we have to look at as well as once the Grievous Wounds option does come in, because like you said, the Executioner's Calling could be a really easy 800 gold purchase for La Víbora Roja, but if you don't buy it on her, then your only source would be a Morel Namicon from Tren, and he will be building that most likely as a second item, but that's still almost at least a 2,900 gold investment if I remember my items correctly.
Yeah, but even seeing that Morgana took Exhaust, that's another reason why I would expect to take Ignite. You might want to run at least one Ignite for that Dr. Mundo, especially after that buff, because before, if you would use your ultimate on Dr. Mundo and you would start healing your health back without Grievous Wounds, you would still heal, or sorry, I think I'm mixing this up. So if you would ignite or apply Grievous Wounds to Dr. Mundo post buff, so right now, he would still be healing more than he would the previous patch without Grievous Wounds. That's how much he's gotten that buff.
Well, you know, Riot, they just want to shake some things up sometimes. Just throw in, you'll see some patches where you see some buffs or nerfs that were expected to curve down some champions that were either needed a lot of love or they needed to be just depressed a little bit. And then you get curveballs like this where, I mean, it's not that Mundo wasn't in an already good position, but the way they buffed him was so, it seems so much on paper, right? And because going from 60% to 100% is a huge jump. And so we're going to have to see if Notes can take advantage of that. For me, it seems like a really nice buff to have on this champion.
Yeah, but I think what Riot's thinking was behind it was that they really felt bad that his entire kit was being shut down by one item, and that was Executioner's Calling. So they're trying to give him that, at least a little bit something to have him be somewhat strong.
All right, I believe we are getting into game. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the spectator delay has ticked down, and we are now onto the Rift. Looks like Fingers Up are starting to run it down mid. Not Tyler 1 style, hopefully, though. Don't want to end quite yet. Don't want to give up the game. It's only 25
Don't want to
seconds.
end at all.
Nope.
I mean, it looks like both teams starting to get that line of scrimmage going.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from Godhog on the J4, just standing in the mid lane between Tier 1 and Tier 2. Not sure what advantage he's getting there.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We're not sure if maybe he's not made up his mind quite yet on where he wants to start. If he wants the path towards the bot side of the map, then he will have to start blue buff. And ideally, if he wants to go for a delayed level 2 gank, which I've seen some Jarvans pull off to great success, that you can go blue buff into red buff. And then normally, if you don't see a gank right after 1 minute and 45, which is the normal like red buff into a straight gank in the mid lane or bot lane, if you go for a delayed, it's still earlier than the expected level 3 kind of gank timing, which is about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But if a delayed level 2 would be around 2 minutes and 5 seconds or 2 minutes and 10 seconds, which could catch La Víbora Roja and Macros off guard. But looks like Godhot is just going to start on the red buff side.
Yeah. I'm surprised to see both Dr. Mundo and Ornn not fake leash early on. Like, if I was the Dr. Mundo, what I would have done is I would have went to the blue buff, threw a Q, even an auto attack, let the blue buff attack me a couple times to get some of my health down, because I'll heal it back anyways, and then boom, all of a sudden the other team thinks that I leashed blue buff.
You know what? I actually agree with that point, because it's not like Notes are across Delirium are huge early game bully champions that you want to secure an early advantage early on. These are both two tanks that are just going to slap at each other and like, not really do anything unless someone heavily misplays early on. But actually, if we're looking at this bot lane, Fizzykizit and Laniak are getting a huge advantage in the bot lane push already.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it looks like Oriana's shoving that in on Talia as well. And Fizzy and Braum already starting to go macros.
Yeah. Is that something that
he's getting chunked to about almost 250 health now. That's I mean, he still has a couple more pots that should give him about 300 more health. But that's not kind of the start you want to see on, especially as Caitlyn Morgana.
Infinity Wars. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would have expected Caitlyn to start shoving in, prioritize the level 2 super fast. Because you get that level 2, that's such an early advantage that you have to be able to freeze the way you want it, deny Ash countless CS.
Wait, yeah, we don't even have a...
Oh, cheers. The cheers that built in.
Thank you for the cheers, Notch.
Well, the good thing is, though, for La Víbora Roja and Macros, even though they were getting pushed in early, looks like this last hitting from Fizzykizit was not quite there, as he is losing about a wave's worth of CS to Caitlyn at the moment. So CS department-wise, Fingers Up bot lane is still doing pretty good here.
Yep, it looks like the Caitlyn almost a wave and a half lead of a CS, although there is still 3 more casters there to be claimed from the Ashe. Godhog on J4 is starting to invade the red side, and it looks like that he's spotted on that last zombie ward.
We're gonna have to see how they can abuse that vision now that Fizzykizit getting locked down by Dark Binding. That's the combo we were talking about.
just some info on what was happening top lane. J4 went to go just investigate around the corner to see if there was anyone around, and then the Krugs actually reset on him while they were 1 HP.
Oh no. It's gonna be a huge feels bad to Godhog in there in the top lane. Oh, and oh no, the flash Q from Star Heaven's gonna knock down Noble to about 100 health. He does have the flash, will be able to get away safely, but that is a lot of pressure now being put on the Noble's lane.
Yeah, although both champions traded flash for flash, it definitely looks like that Celia got the shorter end of the stick there, because now Trent is going to be able to free farm in the mid lane.
Does have the TP. Ops, not sure if he will use it. He's trying to see what items he wants to buy. Remember, this is the patch where Lost Chapter was increased in cost from 1100 gold to 1300, so it's a lot harder to get that optimal backing time earlier on. You have to wait for about another 200 gold, and it looks like Star Heaven was able to clip him right before that optimal back time.
Yeah, it looks like Talia's rushing here, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe opting for that early Archangel staff. But after the previous patch, I would expect her to try to get it later on, considering that they made the early ratios a little bit weaker. And they also increased the cost of the tier as well, if I'm not mistaken, from 750 to 850.
So he even can't even complete a tier, because now I believe instead of 750, it's 850 gold. Or is it? It's either 850 or 900. We have to double check that.
I believe it's 850. And we have Noble starting to roam down to the bot lane, looking to pick up a couple of kills, and she doesn't opt to use her wall. Oh, now she's gonna use her wall.
There it is, and a Vivora Roja. He does have the 90 caliber net. He's gonna be able to do it over the wall, and that gank seems pretty lackluster, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would have definitely expected to see Noble use her wall while she was a little bit more down the river, just in case that there was a ward there, which there was in the tri-bush. But yeah, it looks like that Fizzy and Laniac in the bot lane definitely got that vision dominance in the bot lane with that pink ward in the tri-bush.
Ooh, the Dark Binding's gonna land. It's gonna flash away from the trap before it locks him down. That is a summoner down onto Fizzy Kizit. Still has the heal in case things get a little dicey later on, but La Vibora Roja and Macros gonna take that advantage with them to the bank. They're gonna make use of it well later on.
Absolutely. Wow, something that I didn't really notice until now. The Vi, not only is she counter jungling top lane right now, but Jarvan is solid 2, maybe even, no, it's 4 CS per camp, correct? Yeah, so Jarvan is currently 3 full camps behind the Vi right now. And Vi has actually been ganking lanes.
It just goes to show how Godhog hasn't been really prioritizing, or just hasn't been in the right places at the right time. We did see him spend a lot of time onto the bot lane as Noble was making that gank, but as nothing was caught or made use there, it's like Godhog just hasn't been using his time correctly so far.
Yes, absolutely. Looks like Godhog is trying to pick up that Orianna.
Yeah, it's gonna land the knock up. The Unraveled Earth Seismic Shove combo will not connect as Trent burned his flash to get away. Godhog now repaying the favor to the mid lane, burning the other mid laner's flash. Trent still has quite a bit of a CS lead. Will be able to recall and is gonna get that full last chapter, and he does have the TP, so he'll be able to come back to lane without a flash, but we'll have to see how he's able to play out the rest of the couple next minutes.
Now, I would expect to see both teams try to start setting up for that Ocean Drake coming up soon. Currently, neither team is a pink ward in the pit, but especially I would expect to see Star Heaven on Vi try to start setting up around there, considering that she not only has a CS lead on the Jarvan, but has an XP lead as well. So that would also allow her to have an even greater smite than Jarvan if he would even try to contest it.
Yeah, and in order to set up for the Dragon, you're going to need to have some major pushing advantages on both of the side lanes. Actually, Starheaven's going to find a fist onto Notes. He's going to pop the Sadism, get some health regeneration. He does have Godhawk on the way. He's going to have to use the ultimate to knock up Mundo to get herself away. But Across Delirium wasn't on the same page going into the engage. Call of the Force God not might even be connected here. Actually, got a first blood onto the bot lane. Laning at Physicizit was able to take down Macros. Back on the top lane, Across Delirium did go down the Notes. Unraveled Earth and Seismic Shove combo finds Trent. He does not have Flash, but he's gonna get the fist from Noble, and the Shockwave combo might be enough to do it, and that will be the kill on Noble. Starheaven picks up that one for herself. Jarvan looks like, oh, Laniac going for the Flash Winner's Bite onto the turret. Not gonna be enough damage though, unfortunately, but finally, after 8 minutes, we saw some action going on, but no one committed Fish Food, but now we got some explosions.
I've been waiting for that all game. I was wondering when we were going to start seeing some fighting action. We saw a little bit in the bot lane, but now we're really starting to see how this game is going to play out. Now, both teams sitting at a solid 13.7k gold. Although Team 32, or is it Team 32, right? Although they do, Team 23, right? So although they do have that kill advantage, it just shows you how much Fingers Up has been farming this game. Because they have so much of a CS lead on the Caitlyn and on the Vi that they're able to negate that extra kill.
And Keithly, La Vibora Roja did not go down in that all-in. Yes, her support did die to Laniac and Physicizit, and the gold is now somewhat leveled. I believe a gold lead between them has been stabilized. They're about, actually, Laniac and Mac is trying to contest over the Ward and the Tribush, a little bit of supportal combat, but Black Shield, pretty OP, will be able to negate the effects of the concussive stacks.
And no surprise, looking down in the Bar River, Vi's already starting to get that vision control over the Dragon, so I would not be surprised to see Caitlyn and Morgana shove in this wave the way they are. And perhaps, like right now, I would even be, I would just head over and try to help Vi if she's not going to solo it.
Yeah, and Notes has been having to pop the Sadism there, getting a little low from trades against Across Delirium. Just gotta be careful when you're having the Masochism turned on, or whatever. Oh, Macro's getting stunned, locked up here, and doesn't even have a chance to do anything about it. Goes down real quick. Physicizit picking up the second kill. They might look for more, but the Glacial Fissure does not hit on the Livara Bora Roja. Gonna try to do her best to cut it out. Ace in the hole. It's gonna be blocked by Laniac, but not the well most executed. Oh, Godhawk is here. He has the Cataclysm, but she's gonna flash away, and it's not gonna be in range.
Wow. And meanwhile, Vi was able to secure that Ocean Drake, which will actually be a really big advantage for Fingers Up, because not only is that an early game dragon to get you that sustain in lane, but it's also a siege dragon, because when you're able to have that Ocean Drake against teams like Ashe, or against champions like Ashe and champions like Talia who have that massive poke, you're really going to want some kind of sustain while you're sieging, so that Ocean Drake allows them to have that sustain.
You're absolutely right, Fish Food, and especially when you have probably the most potent siege champion in the game right now, which is, of course, that Caitlyn along with the Morgana combo. You have that 650 range. You have probably the safest range out of any ADC this early on to be able to knock down these turrets. Now, with all those ultimates being burned down in the bot lane, there's still a flash available in Physicizit's kit. There's also an Ignite available from Laniac, but Starheaven has been farming up substantially well, and she's going for the Warrior enchantment, so she's going to have a lot of kill pressure combined with that Electrocute. So at what point do we just see Starheaven just force something onto the bot lane, if she forces something?
I think she needs to ASAP. I think she's stepping in the right direction right now, trying to steal that loot from J4, but she's really got to start ganking lanes and keeping the window on top lane. If Orin has his ultimate up, that could still be a kill despite how tanky window is. So I would like to see Vi step up there right now.
Oh, it might not even be needed. The Call of the Forge God is going to knock up Notes, and he's using the Sadism to try to boost his health up. But here comes Starheaven. Might look for something, but looks like nothing will come of it. Decides to call it off. Will back away, back into her jungle, try to clear out her red buff and Krugs potentially. Maybe she'll rotate over to the bot side.
Yes, one thing that I have to give props to both teams for is keeping that vision in the river. I've seen both teams so far always having pink wards down on the map, always trying to get vision to avoid those ganks with the junglers, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen that many ganks, or that many successful ganks.
We have Godhog sneaking into the top side of the map, and Notes doesn't have Sadism, so if they don't suspect that there's a counter gank lying in wait,
It looks like that they know he's there, because we just saw them taking the bush.
Yeah, so they've got to suspect something.
I would like to see the Braum roam on the Orianna right now, considering how pushed up the Orianna is, but...
Yeah, and it did look like he was making his way, but I think he walked over a ward, so did decide not to call it. And he has to help his AD carry push back the lane now that La Vibora Roja and Macros are starting to push in heavily onto Fizzy Kizit.
Absolutely. Looks like Trent has some ideas in his mind. He's already starting to roam down to the bot lane, despite Leah shoving in her wave.
I have to say, one thing I'm overall really impressed is not only the conservativeness, but the patience from a lot of these teams. Normally, you would see teams at a lower level kind of be more on the quick trigger finger. Actually, I take that back. The Crystal Air is going to start to initiate the fight. The stun was blocked by the Black Shield, but the concussive stacks will not be blocked. And here comes the Cataclysm. Godhog is going to lock down La Vibora Roja. She does not have any stuns or pill over Caliber Nut to be able to help herself out of there. We also have Noble on the bot side of the map. That is a double kill for Fizzy Kizit. And Star Heaven, my friend, you are a little too late to the party. Your bot lane is dead. Trent is pushing in mid lane. This should be the first brick for Team 23 Fisher.
Those are the ganks that we needed to see. We mentioned earlier in Champ Select how J4 really needed to apply that pressure if he wanted to allow his team to be successful, considering how little hypercarry potential they have on their team. So the fact that J4 was able to come in Cataclysm.
Oh, Star Heaven's gonna lock down Noble. She does not have any way to disengage herself. She doesn't have flash. But meanwhile, on the top lane, Notes might be able to solo kill across Delirium. Actually, does not have the damage on the cleaver quite yet. But it looks like he was turning that one around. So we're getting to the point where this Mundo isn't going to be handled by across Delirium's orange.
Yeah, you can see in Orin's build right now, his first item, he opted for that adaptive helm to try to reduce the damage from Mundo's Q and constant W damage. So even though he still managed to escape lane with one death, but I feel like that Mundo would definitely have been able to take advantage of Orin, considering his Q does percent health damage. So Mundo's actually really good at going against AP and AP tanks, considering that he has his W passive, which allows him to gain constant MR, capping at 3 stacks, I believe, and as well as his Q being able to take down Orin's HP really fast as well.
Yeah, he gets a ton of bonus MR from that passive, like you were saying, and so since most of Orin's damage is percent max health magic damage, that's going to spell trouble, as he's already has 80% max health regeneration from the Sadism, as he's rank 2 in that ultimate at level 11. Once he gets to level 16, you know, you're going to need more people. Star Heaven is here onto the top side, but he also sees the Crystal Arrow. It's going to stun him up. The flash from Laniac is going to try to set up the concussive blows. That's another stun, and that's going to be the kill for Fizzy Kizit. This is a 5-0, and Ash right now with the Runon's Hurricane should be able to complete the Infinity Edge quite soon. Oh man, this is not what you want to see from the
we mentioned before how Team 23, their comp is much more of a pick comp, and they're really playing that to that advantage. Ash is landing nearly every arrow she places.
Oh man, and then speaking of the picks, we're already seeing them jump on the Trent and across Delirium. Shockwave was used to disengage the fight somewhat, and it chunked out Godhog a little bit, but the damage has been done. Flash being burned from Trent and across Delirium. Without those two defensive tools, Godhog can visit them again with that Cataclysm, and that time they won't be so lucky.
Yes, absolutely. And we see Team 23 already opting for that lane swap, trying to get that tier 1 in the top tower now. But it looks like that they're going to prioritize the Rift Herald right now. And I'm not surprised, considering that the Rift Herald is such an amazing siege tool. Just to have that in your lane and absorb all that tower damage, and not to mention, with its charge ability, being able to take out half of the turret's health in just one shot.
Yeah, and for those that are not aware, we did get some buffs to the Rift Herald sieging power, so it's even more potent if you use it correctly. I've seen games where Rift Herald was able, if they protected it extremely well and no one contested the Rift Herald, it was able to take all 3 turrets, tier 1, tier 2, and the inhibitor turret before finally dying. So if Team 23 is able to get a good setup, they might be able to get a huge siege advantage.
Yes, absolutely. I believe the buffs were that they increased the amount of damage that it does on the charge attack, and they also decreased the amount of health that it loses every time it uses its charge attack.
Across Delirium might die here, and he will! So much CC coming out from this Freljord bot lane as you pen to Fish Food. Across Delirium did not have flash from before, and I love the fact that Team 23 used that advantage to punish him.
This Ashe is just popping off right now. I mentioned that they didn't have that much hyper carry potential, but look at the Ashe right now. She's 6-0. She's unstoppable. Now, I wonder what Fingers Up would be able to do just to stop that Ashe. I'd imagine that they have to land a Morgana Q and have Vi follow up on the Ashe because she doesn't have a QSS yet. Well, once she gets that QSS, she's just going to be completely unstoppable with Braum by her side. So they really need to try to shut her down ASAP.
Yeah, it's really surprising that with the amount of pressure that Vibora and Macros put onto Fizzykizit and Laniak after the first initial push, they burned Fizzykizit's flash early on, and it's just honestly surprising that Star Heaven didn't prioritize the bot lane. You have a point-and-click ultimate that should be a super easy kill setup. You knock up the target for about a second, you can set the trap down, you can land the Dark Binding down, but they're paying for it now, Fizzykizit.
Yes, absolutely. Because although Caitlyn does scale very well into the...
Oh man, Godhog's gonna land the Cataclysm down. We talked about this before. They already burned Trent's Flash in the exchange in top lane about a minute ago. And Godhog with the return Cataclysm sets up a 7th kill for Fizzykizit.
Team 23, man, they're just using their ultimates so well together. Every time Ashe lands an arrow, J4 is right there to back that up to make sure that they don't get away. Cataclysm, and it looks like that they're gonna pop the Rift Herald top line, try to get that tier 1. Oh, it's pretty low right now, so they gotta try to take that down quick before the charge. Oh, that's one of those things you gotta make sure that you can get that turret low so that you don't have that Rift Herald waste its charge, because then it loses so much of its HP, and the lower HP it has, the less damage it's gonna do to turrets.
Oh, but they spot the Crystal Arrow. No, Vibora's gonna force her away. She's talking about half health. That means Star Heaven has nothing to protect herself with. She'll also go down to the Braum. The 8th kill coming in for Fizzykizit onto the Morgana, and there's only 2 members protecting themselves onto the top side. But that's a lot of damage coming out from Trent and Vibora onto Noble and Fizzykizit. They're gonna have to respect that. Someone block it. Thank you, Laniak. 10 points for being such an awesome support blocking that ace in the hole.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the Vi did a great job at focusing that Ashe in that fight, but the problem is when she went back there in that fight, there was no one else there to back her up, so she kind of just like almost suicided because there was no support there.
Mind your
Fish
footing.
Food, 21 minutes. Actually, almost 22 minutes, and we got 10 kills up on the Team 23 to the 1. They do have a couple turrets matching the 3 turrets, so gold lead is only about 5,000 at the moment. But to mention, all the gold is centered on this Ashe. So, we talked about how Star Heaven just needs to go in there and ult the Ashe and just combo it with Trent's Shockwave. Is it possible still to do that now that Fizzykizit has practically 2.5 items?
I would imagine yes, but I think that they would have to go for complete picks. But if Team 23 ends up grouping like they are right now, it's going to be very, very difficult for Fingers Up to get on that Ashe. And not to mention, the Mundo, despite having only 1 kill, has a 64 CS lead on that Ornn. So the Ornn hasn't completed his 2nd item yet. It doesn't even have tier 1 boots, while the Mundo has 2 full complete items, tier 2 boots, and is already starting his 3rd item.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Mundo is here grouping up with the team. He has the TP. I would imagine that between him and Noble, who both have TP, you would want to start split pushing advantages, splitting up the team. That means there's not as many members to be able to protect someone once you fire that Crystal Arrow and get a Cataclysm pick. But we're going to have to see if they just opt into force a fight maybe in the mid lane. They do have Noble here to cut someone off with the Weaver's Wall, but no triggers pulled quite yet.
Yeah, I would imagine to see 23 do a 1-3-1 composition right now with Mundo in the top lane or bot lane, and then Talia in the other side lane.
There it is. The Crystal Air is going to land on the Vibora. It's going to force her to flash away, but the Weaver's Wall also forces Trent to flash over so that she doesn't get caught out. That's both of the carries. Their flashes are down. They have to back up, and they're going to have to seed this turret. Starhaven still has her ultimate, but with her carries chunked out this low, that won't be any damage follow-up. But this should be an easy turret to kill.
Yeah, absolutely. With the Caitlyn gone, they're a little bit limited on wave clear aside from the Orianna. But the Fizzy Kids are almost taken down by that Orianna QW combo.
And that spells not what you want from Team 23. Unfortunately, Fizzy Kizet being their main damage dealer and their main siege taker, being chunked out, does have to go back to the base. So mid turret won't be taken quite yet, Fish Food, but it looks like they're starting to hover over the dragon. It is going to be up in 20 seconds.
You're standing on shaky ground.
Yeah, this is what I expected to see. I expected to see Mundo in the top lane right now, but I would really like to see Talia move to that bot lane because she's so mobile with her passive, being able to get extra movement speed on those walls, especially in the jungle. And then, not to mention, she could also use her art to gap close if she's really far away and she needs to use it. But so, if you're able to split up, fingers up, and make, because if Mundo's split pushing, you're gonna have to send at least one, if not two people to deal with that Mundo. Because he's so tanky and he's so strong, he's not gonna die quick. So he's just gonna be constantly shoving in that way. So if you're able to send two people just to deal with your one, you're instantly making a 4v3.
You're absolutely right, Fish Food, and he's already level 14, so 2 more levels until that dreaded level 16 mark before he gets 100% max health regeneration from that ultimate. The Crystal Air being shot out one more time. She does not have flash, remember, but that's an amazing shockwave! Holy crap, Fizzy Kids gets absolutely deleted! Their main damage dealer, the one with all the gold, is now down, and without her, there's nothing stopping Fingers Up from just demolishing the rest of the team! Noble and Fizzy Kizet are now both down. The 2 main damage dealers, Fish Food. We talked about this, but it wasn't Fingers Up that started the fight. It was Team 23, but it just went to... I can't say backwards extreme, but you know exactly what I mean.
That's exactly the fight that they needed. They didn't even want that fight, but they still worked out in that favor. And not to mention, they get that shutdown gold from Ashe, giving the entire team a whole bunch of gold. But it's not just the gold that you're getting from the kills. You're also getting an Ocean Dragon, and with those death timers, they're able to shove lanes. You have Ornn pushing in top right now. They just shoved in mid, so they took down that carry, and that shows that there is still that hope for Fingers Up.
Fizzy Kizet had both sums up, but honestly, that shockwave burst happened so fast that I don't even think that either of us just could have reacted to that. That just...
I didn't even notice she died until I saw the ally has been slain on the screen.
Yeah. Oh, and Macros is going to try to punish Fizzy because it almost flashed back into the dark binding. That would have been a huge tilter if that had actually happened. But thankfully, she does get away safe for now, but that's the flash down. We have to remember that Ashe doesn't really have a lot of mobility in her kit. No escape tools. Gonna fire the Crystal Air, but it's blocked by the Black Shield. But Macros is
still
now...
getting picked.
Yep. Fort down. Notes there with the roam. Noble with the roam. He's gonna flash in, get this cleaver slow on the Trent. He's gonna pop the sadism. He has a lot of health regeneration, but the Grievous wounds from the Merle Automaton is doing some work and halting some of the healing done, but that flash from
questionable flash.
Yeah, didn't really get anything done there. It did burn Shockwave temporarily. I wonder if they try to force a Baron situation. You have to be careful about Baron on this patch, though, as now you can no longer just have one person tank it, if I'm correct.
Yes, so they buffed the AoE damage from the Baron, and they also gave it 3,000 health constantly. So the base health of Baron used to be 6,000, and it's now 9,000.
Oh, Glacial Fissure's gonna knock up Vibora Roja, and you got Notes on the backline, and no one's there to protect him, but Starhaven's gonna try to make the hero play, and unfortunately, not gonna work out well for him as he goes down, and the smite was mistimed. Notes is just doing so much damage on the backside of the map, but unfortunately, he's gonna get locked up and down. He did do his job. He kept the backline away from Baron, and Star Heaven not able to make the smite steal. That's going to be huge for Team 23.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's going to be very, very hard for Fingers Up to try to come back from this game. Not only are they down 8,000 gold, but there are two of their members down. One of them being their Caitlyn, and now they have Baron buff. So I wonder how they're going to approach this. If they're going to try to shove in one lane, I would imagine that they would send 4 people to the bot lane and then send Mundo to the top lane.
Yeah, he still has that TP, so if they need him to join in the fight, if they have the correct vision around the jungle side, he can get into a huge flank. He now has the Dead Man's Plate, and he's now level 16 Fish Food. He has that dreaded 100% max health regeneration. So even if you take him down to nearly 10 health, and he pops that ultimate, he's just gonna slurp all that health back up, and you're gonna have to kill him all over again.
Yeah, 100% health. So that's just absolutely insane. And Caitlyn hasn't even gotten the Mortal Reminder yet, or Executioner's Calling, rather.
Yeah, that Shockwave combo is huge. Fizzy has been chunked down. She pops the heal to get themselves sustained back up, and Notes is already there for the reinforcements. And thankfully for Team 23, despite that Shockwave combo that did look shady, Trent, Vibora, and Macros overstayed their welcome, and they're all now dead.
Yeah, now that Ashe has that Vampiric Scepter, she's able to keep herself alive, and that fight was with heal. I wonder if she would have died there if she didn't have heal. But now that Ashe is starting to build some life steal, I would imagine that she's going for the Bloodthirster, seeing that she also has the BF sword.
Add on to the attack damage that she already has from the Infinity Edge. This Ashe is already going to be hitting hard, and she's going to be life stealing hard as well. The Weaver's Well being used, a little questionable. I guess they just wanted to section off Star Heaven from being able to deny that wave being pushed onto the bot inhibitor turret. But we have kind of a interesting 1-2-2 sit-up right here, Fish Food, and they're trying to siege hard onto all 3 turrets right now. But Fizzy Kizit's got to be careful. Star Heaven does have the ultimate ready, so if they want to engage onto this Ashe, there won't be really anything to protect her, as Notes isn't the best guardian of champions here.
Yeah, Fingers Up, their priority right now, if they do manage to get into a fight, is that they have to focus that Ashe. If that Ashe stays alive for more than 5 seconds, she's just going to absolutely obliterate their entire team. She's got Hurricanes, so she's going to be melting 3 of them out at once, and she's just doing the most DPS in the entire game right now, so that has to be the priority.
Oh man, Notes is feeling the fight. He's just gonna try and draw attention, but he's doing his job. They already got the top inhibitor, and the rest of his team are working on the mid and bot lane inhibitors as well. And Fingers Up, they just running around like a bunch of chickens off their heads. The Crystal Arrow's gonna start up the fight. Black Shield's a little too late. Trent has been stunned up, and he's gonna get locked down by the Cataclysm. He might be going down, but not quite yet, as he will be able to take down Godhog. Notes is here on the back side of the map. He's gonna look to try and split them up. Jungler being traded in for mid lane. Noble also here on the bot side of the map, trying to get that inhibitor as well. But all of Fingers Up members are just running around. They're not sure which one to prioritize. You can't possibly imagine, Fish Food, what the communications are right now for Fingers Up.
Yeah, looking at that last fight, their priorities were all over the place. They don't appear to have one shot caller saying, hey, go for this person, go for this person. Everyone's got their own mindset, and they're trying to split up and focus, and that's not the most efficient way to win a team fight. You have to focus one target, do one at a time, and then once you have them out of the fight, it's a lot easier to advance in that fight because it becomes a 5v4, and then they only have 4 people doing damage, and then so on.
And that's the thing, Fishroot, about compositions like the one that Team 23 has drafted here. Yes, the Ashe and the Braum might not be the strongest bot lane, especially compared to the dreaded Caitlyn Morgana bot lane that we've seen at high levels of play. But if you're able to get through that laning phase, or if you're able to play around some of the weaknesses or the disadvantages that these not well-practiced team compositions are not able to execute well, you have kits loaded of crowd control. And with the crowd control, you can cause so much chaos, so much disruption on the other enemy team that even well-practiced teams, sometimes they get flustered, they panic. And it's hard to communicate clearly what you need to do in those moments of battle.
Yes, exactly. Now I'm really interested to know why Ashe didn't get a QSS after all that. Oh, looks like we gotta fight in the jungle.
Trent needs a QSS.
Ooh, that crit.
He's
yeah.
gonna go down. no flash, and I mean, he didn't get hit up by any CC, but the cleaver slows, and the amount of damage that comes out from Notes at this point in the game is just too much for full damage Oriana to deal with. Actus is going to try to do something, but he missed the Dark Binding, and he's going to have to try and flash away. The Soul Shackles are going to lock down the support and top laner from Team 23. She will be able to get away, and Noble's on the wrong side of her own wall. Gonna try to kite this one out before Roja's trying to fight back, getting in those autos when she can safely, but looks like Team 23 is just gonna opt in for the bot inhibitor. They can rotate to this mid inhibitor now that the turret is finally down. Fishfood, we're about to see a triple inhibitor situation. Cross the Delirium's gonna send out the Ornn ultimate. Call of Forge God will only knock up one, not really doing that much to shove Team 23 back. They just have to walk this one out.
Yeah, so with Baron coming up within the next minute, I would definitely imagine that Team 23 is going to be heading straight there after the back. And if Team 23 manages to get their hands on Baron, I don't imagine a way out for Fingers Up.
Yeah, unless you severely misplay the siege situation. I mean, at this point, once Team 23 does get the Baron, you don't even have to fight. You just have to stand with your minions, herald them in like a bunch of sheep, and just let them do the rest of the work. I wouldn't even be surprised if people had enough gold. Unfortunately, no one can buy a Banner of Command right now, but if you had that, that would be the icing on the cake, Fish.
Yeah, but now with all three waves outside of their base, I personally would not even opt for the Baron. I would just try to shove in the mid lane and the top lane first. Because if you do Baron while the waves are outside of the base and towards the middle of the map, that's a possible out for Fingers Up. If they are able to steal that Baron, that could be a possible throw. So I would definitely be prioritizing shoving in waves, like they are being shoved right now, before doing any possible Baron play.
Yeah, and you have TP from both Noble and Nodes, so you can definitely do that. Looks like they might just opt in for an engage or Shockwave catches 3, but doesn't really do damage to any of these 3 tanks. Crystal Arrow will find the mark on the tread. He's going to go down the mid laner. We'll have to go back to the Nexus. Vibora trying to flash away from the other side of the fight, but gets locked down by the Cataclysm, as we see Nodes picking up the kill for himself. Busy Kizit taken down across Delirium as well. With 3 members down Fish Food, this looks like the end for Fingers Up and a victory for Team 23.
Yes, absolutely. Now you see Caitlyn finally get in that last whisper and the Executioner's calling. That's a little bit too late now. A little bit too late for that.
That's one of those moments, it's like, oh, that's a really great purchase, but could have used it like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
No.
So it looks like that Team 23 was able to use their comp strategy much more effectively in that game. We saw countless picks. I don't think did Ash miss an arrow that game?
I think she missed maybe one, but every arrow that we saw, at least on the client, turned into a kill. So that
yes, absolutely.
Absolutely outstanding performance from Laniac and Fizzykizit in the bot lane, and also cheers to the rest of Team 23 for rallying together and just making great use of their ultimate abilities. That crowd control engagement setups were just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, one thing I noticed that game, they would never fight without their ultimates. Aside from maybe a select couple fights, all of their all-in fights, they would have their ultimates, which is huge, because having your ultimates in that fight, that can be the difference between winning a fight or losing that fight.
You're absolutely right. And it just goes to show that these teams, or at least Team 23, they weren't just mindlessly fighting, they weren't picking skirmishes. I mean, we saw how passive both of these teams were in the early game. I think we had no kills, at least for 8 minutes.
Yeah, it was 8 minutes into the game. We didn't really see that much early action. I expect to see a lot more ganks with Jarvan and Vi, but we didn't actually get to see that. And I believe the first blood was just a 2v2 in the bot lane while we were watching a fight going on in the top lane.
All right. Well, that will be the end of that first match, of course, but we have our second match coming up. It will be Titan Esports versus Team 9. Everyone stick around. We'll be back. We're just going to take a quick vocal break as we're getting ready into the second lobby, of course, but we will be back with the second show match for you guys.
Sure, Hypernose. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second show match of the evening on Risen Esports. I'm your play-by-play caster for the evening, Mark Rafa Arambide, and my wonderful co-caster. Go ahead and introduce yourself one more time, my friend.
I'm Fish Food, and I'm going to be your color caster for the evening.
All right, and Fish Food today, we have got Titan Esports versus T9, and we've already started into the pick and ban phase of the match. We got Vayne and Caitlyn bans coming out. The Caitlyn ban I understand, but the Vayne, that's a curveball right there.
Yeah, I definitely would have expected to see a Kaisa ban instead of the Vayne, considering the strength of her right now. She's kind of like a Vayne in herself, with the amount of scaling, and I think she just kind of one-ups whatever Vayne does right now.
Yeah, it just must be they're looking at a comfort pick. Maybe it is a well-practiced champion on one of these members from Team 9. The ADC, his name is Insane Vayne, so maybe that is a respect ban going to that player individually.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's all the bans we're going to see from Team 9 since they are using 2 E-subs. Am I correct?
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, I am not informed about the
That's what I'm reading in the client
subs
chat right
in
now.
the bands rules. Oh, right. So that is a little unfortunate. So, but if you only had to ban one champion, Caitlyn is one of those champions that you would like to take off the Rift. So, pretty smart ban coming in from Team 9. We're going to have to see now what Titan Esports elects to ban now that they have still 2 more bans. They did ban the Jax away. Very strong top laner with the Conqueror Keystone. Once he gets through that laning phase and the Trinity Force does come into play, he can be a very strong duelist. Has an immense amount of true damage with that Conqueror Keystone. And the Ahri, also a pretty strong champion in the mid lane as well.
Yes, absolutely. Now, last game, we saw a little bit of a mix of comps. We saw one team that was primarily focused on picking champions, and we saw one that was more teamfight focused. And in that match, the pick comp ended up winning with the Ash Arrows and the J4 ults as well. So I'm interested to see if either team are going to elect one of those comps or if they're going to go for more of a team-focused comp.
You're right. And that first pick coming in from Titan Esports is the Kayn. We have been seeing the Kayn tear up the Rift in solo queue games almost everywhere, especially with the new buffs to the way his passive works. And now you can accelerate your form even faster in the early parts of the game rather than later on. So getting to that Ross form or that Shadow Assassin form is a lot easier for the Kayn.
Yes, absolutely. And although Kane is not really a flex pick as far as roles, because he's most almost certainly going to be in the jungle, he's still a flex pick as far as what you're looking for in a comp. Whether you want a one-shot assassin, whether you want some kind of diver, so he could fit both of those roles very well.
Looking at Team 9, they have picked their support, the Janna, and then the Diana. I haven't really seen Diana being played at all other than on Scar's stream. So, Fish Food. Okay, so we're just getting word from our production manager that Diana is not the correct pick. It is the Jarvan. Makes a lot more sense as we saw Godhog making great use of that Cataclysm in the first show match of the evening. So Jarvan being locked in for Team 9. We have Ezreal and Alistar, the bot lane being locked in for Titan Esports, and the Tristana locked in for Team 9. So Fish Food, looking now at these team compositions early on, we already have the junglers and the bot lanes locked in. What other champions do you think they should be able to pick to round out their compositions right here?
Well, right now, I would definitely expect to see Titan Esports trying to ban out away the mid lane and the top lane because it definitely looks like that bot lane's gone. And J4 most likely going to be played in the jungle, so although he could be played in the top, I would not be surprised to see Titan Esports try to target ban one of the top laners' more preferred champions.
Indeed. And so just to make sure that everyone is well informed, so Fishfood did mention that Team 9 only has that one ban, the Caitlyn. So the Aatrox and Lucian bans, they are conversing with each other in the team lobby select. Those Aatrox and Lucian bans are there because they will not be picked by Titan Esports, whereas the Zoe and the Syndra are true bans. So targeting the mid lane very heavily onto Brady Hash. So we're going to have to see what mid lane champion he opts in. He does have the option to counterpick as he does have the last pick. So they might look for the top lane, and they will. They get the Kled, the Cantankerous Cavalier, riding in on that Scarl Lizard.
Yes, absolutely. Kled is just one of those champions that can give you such a great engage if you have the right comp for it. And J4 is synergizing with it very well. Giving J4 that extra movement speed, running it down a lane or running through the jungle to try to get to that backline target is very, very, it benefits him very well.
Yeah, it's almost like if you put Sivir ulti onto a Rengar or a Yoru version of Rengar.
Yes. Now that being said, Titan Esports picks up the Fiora, and I used to play a lot of Kled towards the end of Season 7, and Fiora was a very, very tough matchup for me. Not only can she use her parry to proc your Bear Trap string, it can also be used to negate the most of Kled's burst damage, which is his W, especially that 4th hit. So Fiora definitely has that advantage in the top lane. Do you have any experience with the Swain Vladimir matchup?
You know, Swain Vladimir, we've been seeing this matchup quite a lot in higher levels of play, as Swain slowly, after getting a lot of love buffs after being released, finally became the most oppressive champion in the mid lane. So damn tanky and so much damage coming out from the Noxian general. But he has been getting some nerf taps back into a more balanced state. He does require a little bit more scaling before he starts popping off in team fights. Vladimir, kind of, honestly, Swain Vladimir are very similar in matchup and
Yes.
playstyle. You want to absorb a lot of cooldowns, as you're not necessarily a backline mage. You are a battle mage. You are thriving in the middle of the enemy team, trying to soak up attention and damage, and you are able to heal off of using both of their ultimates, actually. So I think the one thing that does give Swain an edge over Vladimir early on is he has crowd control set up with the never move from his E. So if Kayn ever wants to visit the mid lane for an early kill setup, that can be easily set up by the Swain.
Yes, absolutely. And looking at both of these comps, both teams have a number of vanguards, a number of divers, a number of tanks. So between Kayn, Alistar, Fiora, Swain, Kled, Vladimir, J4, all of them are going to be trying to get in the middle of the fight if they're not going for the back line. So it's just going to be absolute chaos in these team fights, considering you're only going to have Ezreal, Tristana. Even Ezreal sometimes likes to get in there, and same with Tristana with the W. So I wonder how well these teams are going to be able to sort of organize these fights and know exactly how to position themselves.
Yeah. And one thing I do like about the 80 carry lock-ins from both of these teams is that they're fairly mobile. You have the arcane shift from Ezreal, which gets to very low cooldown once you have your core item build. You have the 40% CDR. And then you have Tristana, whose mobility was nerfed a couple patches ago, but with that rocket jump having the resets, you do have some safety early on. So I wouldn't actually be surprised, Fish Food, if Fiora and Kled just opt in for the split push, whichever, of course, gets ahead more and favors it better. Because if there is any skirmishes or team fights that pop out later on, you don't really have to worry about them because you have great disengage options from the mobility of most of these champions on either form. And you also have specifically on Titan Esports, you have Alistar to be able to headbutt anyone away. You have on Team 9's side of the field, you have Janna. So you have Tornado, you have Monsoon. So anytime that these skirmishes are engaged, you can obviously disengage them away, and you can just continue going for a 1-4 setup or a 1-3-1 setup if the Swain and the Vladimir elect to take TP as well.
Yes, I would not be surprised to see a 1-3-1 setup from these teams. Now, if I was the Kayn or the Jarvan, I would definitely try to prioritize ganks over in the top lane, because all it takes in that matchup is just one kill to let the snowball start rolling. Considering that both of them are very good at taking towers, with Kled's W passive and Fiora's E auto attack reset. Both of them are so good at taking these towers that if one of them gets ahead, the other's not going to be able to match it, and that snowball's just going to carry on for the rest of the game. And not to mention, with Team 9, you also have Tristana, one of the best tower takers in the game. I think only Ziggs can give her a run for her money there. But so yeah, if I was in one of these junglers, I would definitely try to prioritize early ganks in the top lane.
Yeah, and especially once they get rolling, they don't really need that many items. At least on Kled's side, I've seen that once they get the Tiamat item, either for
Yes.
him or the Fiora, their wave clear just shoots through the roof. They're able to shove them in. They can start accelerating that lead even more, shoving the CS, putting pressure onto the top lane and to the first brick if the bot lane turret doesn't go down already by that point in time. And I feel like I completely agree with you, Fishu, that these junglers have to prioritize the top lane, but I feel like it's even more of a priority for Anchor in the jungle because, yes, you can get this Kled ahead, but you need to get him insanely ahead because if you just get him a little bit ahead and Heath's on this Fiora just starts farming up and then gets to her 2 items, it doesn't even matter how far ahead Kled is because it just seems like Fiora gets unkillable, undoable once she's level 11. She has the rank 2 ultimate in the Grand Challenge, and she has so much damn healing, and she has so much true damage, and she doesn't even need Conquer.
Yes, absolutely. And looking at Champ Select right now, just like last game, I noticed that the support for Team 9 opted for Exhaust instead of Ignite. Now, that's very understandable as far as the laning phase because Ezreal can be very, very oppressive. But if you're looking towards more of a mid-game, late-game kind of scenario, I'm really wondering if Vladimir took Unsealed Spellbook, which I'm assuming he would, because he would definitely want to take that Ignite because with Alistar's healing, Swain's healing, Kane's healing, Fiora's healing, all of them have so much team fight sustain. So that could be a very, very big problem for Team 9 if they can't handle that.
Exactly. And I think the only saving grace for Brady Hash, if he does not opt for Ignite, is that now Morello Nomicon as a Grievous Wounds item is more accessible. No longer it requires or it gives mana. So it makes more sense that you can purchase it. It actually gives health and AP at this point, which work insanely well for Vladimir, as his passive does give bonus AP or HP depending on either or stat that you buy.
Yes, absolutely. Now, looking at the top matchup right now, I did say that Fiora has the 1v1 advantage over Kled, but that being said, I think if Kled rushes Tab Eyes early and doesn't elect for that Tiamat, and if Fiora actually goes to the Tiamat, Fiora is, whether she wants to or not, she's going to end up pushing that wave in, and that could opt for opportunities for J4. Because not only would Kled be staying alive more in the laning phase with the Ninja Tabi, Fiora would be shoving it in. So if J4 can capitalize on those opportunities and just get Kled that first kill, Kled could instantly just start getting all his AD, try to get his Cleaver, try to get his Titanic Hydra, and then just start taking over.
Indeed. I do want to ask before we get into game, as we're just waiting for the spectator delay to tick down. So, Fish Food, Ezreal actually got indirectly nerfed this patch because of all the mana changes and all the that were supposed to be targeting mages. Riot never did any compensation buffs to Ezreal, even though he is a prime tier user. In fact, that's probably the item that he always rushes in almost every scenario. It's 100 gold more expensive, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but one of the crucial things is that the mana refund passive was nerfed a lot in order to compensate for the mana regen buffs and overall state change to the mid lane. Whereas Ezreal, he got no mana regen buffs. So how does that factor into the early laning phase?
You know what? You're absolutely right. That's something that I didn't really consider at first when I saw those changes. But if you think about it, I believe it went from 15% to 10% on the mana refund, if I'm not mistaken. But let's say that is the scenario, 5%. 5% from 15% is a lot. That's a lot of mana that you're not getting back when you're a champion that loves to spam abilities for harassing the lane. So although they were primarily looking at that for the mid lane, Ezreal definitely took a big hit on that. And so although Ezreal would normally be able to harass Tristana a lot, that's gonna start adding up in lane, especially when you're in lane for long periods of time and you don't have that sustain. And not to mention it costs 100 gold more. So that's gonna be, depending on how good of a CSer you are, that's gonna be minimum 2 waves, if not 3 waves, that you're gonna have to stay in lane before you can get that tier.
You're absolutely right. We're going to have to see if luck is on 420's side. That is the Ezreal. To see if maybe he can just get some lucky kleptoprocs and get like 3 bags of gold early on. That way he doesn't have to worry about CSing. As you know, one of the biggest decisions that you have to make as an Ezreal player later on is, you know, how you manage the wave so that you don't have to prioritize using the Mystic Shots to last hit. You want to be able to use your advantage early on to use those mystic shots to harass your lane opponent. And so if he doesn't do a good job of it, then this could give Insane Vayne and Ikariam some relief in the bot lane early on.
Yes, and we mentioned earlier about how Vladimir might have opted for the Unsealed Spellbook to get that Ignite, but he ended up going for the Phase Rush, which is, I'm not sure how good that is on Vladimir, although Swain took it too. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so when this season first started out back on 8.1, and we were looking at all the runes reforged as that was coming into play, no one was really experimenting with Unsealed Spellbook. And so one of the first things that came to mind for Vladimir mains was like, man, all these keystones suck. Like, they just straight up suck. Even the one that they took the most common, which was the Storm Raider Surge on the old runes, Phase Rush to them was a worse version comparatively, because Storm Raider Surge only required you to proc 30% of the enemy's health in order to get that huge movement speed buff, and the movement slow decrease, kind of like you can ignore, I guess it's some kind of like movement slow tenacity buff as well. The Phase Rush requires you to hit 3 separate attacks or abilities in order to proc it. And while Vladimir does a lot of damage, he is not necessarily the smoothest combo person, especially early on. And when you want that movement speed buff, you kind of want it on demand, which is why he has opted for the Ghost. And with the Unsealed Spellbook changes on this patch, where it's no longer, okay, you can just have, Flash or your primary spell up faster, it's different. And so maybe Brady Hash just does not feel comfortable with the new Unsealed Spellbook, does not have a lot of practice on it. So he's just going to go for a more kind of standard, you know what, I know that I will always have Ghost in team fights. I will always have Phase Rush to assist me in team fights later on with the movement speed buff once I have enough CDR to proc all my abilities instantaneously. Because once he does get a full combo, then he will be able to proc it, but it's just not as easy, and always helped him in the laning phase early on back with the old Storm Raider Surge.
Yes, absolutely. And considering that it would take three separate attacks, that's your Q, that's your E, and that's your auto attack right there. And his Q cooldown is actually surprisingly long early on, so that's like a solid 5-6 seconds at least before you can use your Q again, and by then I'm pretty sure that the buff would wear off, so you're not getting like the maximum value out of Phase Rush when you're playing Vladimir. But yeah, I can see why he wouldn't go Unsealed Spellbook, considering that each one is like a one-time use. But yeah, that's something that a lot of top laners at the beginning of the season struggled with, was like champions like Fiora, champions like Kled. They didn't have a keystone that could like represent them so well. Like they were going for like press the attack or even some resolve keystones. So that's why they came out with Conquer, because a lot of these bruisers, they needed a keystone that suited them.
Exactly. And Conquer Keystone has, even though in pro play the impact hasn't been quite felt yet because teams are still being conservative. We're seeing best of ones right now in MSI, and so you're not going to go out with the most, kind of volatile strategy. You want to start with just the more conservative, the safest, the less risk, or the kind of the most risk-averse strategies you can get, which is normal standard teamfight composition tanks in the top lane. But this Conquer Keystone has really changed the landscape of what is strong in the top lane. All these bruisers, like you were talking about, he didn't have really a good keystone. Press the attack was kind of the closest one if you want to just all-in damage, or even fleet of footwork for some champions if you just wanted some extra sustain, but it wasn't quite anything that these top laners wanted. And now with this Conquer Keystone, you gain additional base attack damage, and you get 20% of your overall damage output converted to true damage once it's procced. And it's super easy to proc as a top laner because it requires you to be in combat for 4 seconds, and then your first auto onto a champion, as we just seeing right now between Heats and Melon Mash being procced. It procs, the 20% true damage comes out, you the base attack damage is increased, and then I like the way that they worded that it actually, we're gonna have a level 3 gank from Anchor in the top side of the map, but he's gonna miss the, wow, that was
a little bit of a questionable combo there, considering that he took the E after Fiora dashed. Still went where she originally was.
Yeah, normally when you approach that gank, you just walk up for the slow from your W Aegis passive. That way you force Heaths to use the mobility spell, and then it's a lot easier to land that knockup. So, but well played by Heaths to be able to get out of that skirmish alive. Oh, and now we have Ken have my red here for the return gank. Time to pay your respects, Melon Mash. You're going to have to parry the flash. Might not even be enough, as Can't Have My Rest will get the final kill onto you, and first blood is going to go to the Kane. Heath is now going to electing to another 1v1 with Anchor.
Minions, they're hurting.
Oh, man. He's got taken quite low, but in that whole exchange, he didn't burn flash. What, what patience and what composure to still not panic and burn your summoner after that whole ordeal.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I noticed in that little pickup right there. Can't Have My Red actually had his red buff, and not only this dismounted Kled the slowest movement speed champion in the game, that red buff also slowing that Kled. There was just almost little to no way he was going to get out of that one, even with flash.
Yeah, just great stuff from Can't Have My Red, being able to respond to the top lane after Anchor misplayed that gank. He gave Melon Mash a false sense of security, and he was able to punish him.
If we take a look in the bot lane, something I noticed right now, well, now Janna just leveled up, was Tristana was level 4 and Janna was only level 3. And they've been in lane both together the entire time, so I wonder if Janna missed a couple of CS from that Leash Jig or early on that put her behind.
Maybe. We do see some vision onto the tri-bush, so perhaps when she stepped out to get some vision, that she was away from the experience range to pick up some CS, as Insane Vein was pushing in the wave. But a Fish Food, now that after that top lane exchange, he's only picked up an assist, so he got 2 long swords on the back. Did use his TP, whereas Melon Mash just walked back to lane. And he has a health crystal, so it doesn't look like he'll be opting in for the Tiamat first item rush. Do you think he'll be going for maybe a phase?
I'm seeing a Black Cleaver right now, because Black Cleaver is also a first item you can go on Kled, but still, I'm really surprised he didn't opt for that cloth armor. He did manage to pick up a control ward, but
we might have to come to that discussion a little later. Fish Food. Oh man, that could have been a kill setup right there, but Akarian was able to flash the headbutt so that by the time that the headbutt went through, it pushed him towards the turret instead of back towards the team. Well played from Akarian, being able to flash it in time, but that is a summoner down from the support on the bot side of the map. Great gank from Can't Have My Red, burning some sums, putting some more pressure. And now he's returning for the gank. This is what I love to see. Insane Vein is going to have to use the jump to get away to safety, burning the heal to keep themselves alive. Not sure if it was necessary, but I do like the safe play over the risky play.
Yep, I completely agree with you. And something that I noticed, if you look towards the mid lane, Vladimir's got almost 3 full waves of CS advantage on that Swain. And Swain also just back, so Vladimir's going to be able to push that wave in and deny Swain not only the CS that he's already missed, but even more CS. So it just shows you how advantageous farming can be for you when you're better CS than your opponent.
Exactly. And one thing that we didn't talk about in the Vladimir Swain matchup that I didn't think about now is that Vladimir is practically a resourceless champion, does not require the use of mana or energy. Whereas Swain, he is a mana-constrained champion, and so if the laning phase goes on long enough, actually we'll talk about that later, so this is going for another engage onto Insane Vein, and Ikariam does not have flash from before, remember, and the Ignite is going to go down. That will be the kill for Sleuth. Support lane going down. We actually have charge coming in from Kled. He's going to try to engage on the Heaths. Does have the flash if he needs it, but he's going to get knocked up and doesn't even have time to use it. Melon Mash picking up return revenge kill with the assist from his jungler Anchor.
Yeah, looking at that fight, at first I thought Fiora was going to get away, considering that Kled kind of ended his charge a little bit early. He didn't opt for that full range of his art, he just clicked on a spot.
Oh, it looks like a dive is actually coming out from Slews and Can't Have My Red, but Insane Vein still has the flash, will be able to flash away. Slews taking a lot of damage, and Can't Have My Red still wants the kill, and he does have it! The electrocute and the damage from his kit will be able to destroy this Tristana, send her back to the Nexus. She will be back up in 10 seconds, though, but a lot of pressure going down onto the bot side of the map here, Fishfood.
Yes, this is exactly what I expected to see. I expect to see both junglers being very aggressive early on. We've seen ganks at both the top and the bot lane, but I wonder if we're going to see a gank in the mid lane sometime soon. I didn't really expect too much focus on the mid lane, considering how safe both of those champions are with Swain and Vladimir. But I wonder if they're gonna try to break the tie right now, because it looks like that we have the lead in the bot lane for Titan Esports, and then we have a lead in the top lane for Team 9.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to see how Heath's also bounces back, because that gank did stop a lot of momentum that Heath did have after Can't Have My Red had a successful counter gank onto the top side of the map. He still has a huge CS advantage, about 20 CS on the Cantankerous Cavalier in Melon Mash, and even though despite getting ganked, he's still putting the hurt onto Melon Mash here.
Absolutely. Now, looking towards the ball right now, you see that Ezra finally managed to pick up the Sheen in the tier, but something that I didn't really get to address earlier. Oh, we got something going on in the mid lane. It looks like this is gonna actually get away. Never mind.
Yeah,
but something that I didn't get to address earlier was the fact that Ezra was extremely low on mana after being in lane for a long time, and that was even with the tier. So that shows you what we were talking about, how that mana refund being reduced is really affecting the amount of harass that Ezreal can induce during the lane.
Absolutely. And so it's even more pivotal that he did receive the pressure from Can't Have My Red, because he's not going to be able to win lane on his own as early on as he would like. So having that kill pressure already set up from Can't Have My Red definitely helps smooth out the lane experience for 420 here. And I just want to ask one more question here for Can't Have My Red. Looks like he is going to be prioritizing that mid lane right now, but Anchor is also here for the counter gank, and the Major is going to pop the ultimate, try to absorb as much damage as he can. Hemoplague was also already popped, but not enough damage coming out. Anchor is going to look for the flag and drag, going to force Major to flash away, but he's going to go back in, and that forces the Cataclysm, but Slews is here for the counter gank. The Cow's going to try to get some redemption in. Swain does go down, but they did kill Anchor. Now Slews Can't Have My Red, and Heath is all gonna try to dive this Vladimir under turret. The pool will keep him alive, but for how long? The flash coming in from Can't Have My Red is gonna be answered by Brady Hash's own flash. Oh man, diving under 2 turrets, but meanwhile bot lane 420 also had to Arcane Shift away from Insane Vein and Ikariam, trying to abuse the fact that Slews was helping his main laner instead of this bot lane, but no advantages gained there either.
Yes, absolutely. I think that Titan Esports could have actually killed that Vladimir. It looked like that there was a lack of communication there between whether they were going to keep going for the dive or if they were just going to back off, because we saw the Alistar and the King opted to go for Vladimir, while the Fiora, who was actually ahead of them, elected to back off. So if Fiora had her Q up, she definitely could have lasted that Vladimir there, so that's almost a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Ooh. 6 shots are starting to hurt on an Insane Vein. He does have the heal. They do have the Monsoon if they want to go for it. And just this time, talk about it. Slews was thinking the exact same thing. Does force out the Monsoon from Ikariam though, and it has healed Insane Vein back up to almost full. Now sitting about 75% HP. Should be able to continue laning for a few more waves until he wants to back for potentially Berserker Greaves or Zeal or whatever kind of item path he wants to go for. And I want to see, let's see what Can't Have My Red, what form he opts into, because he's at base and he should have, he's transforming. We got the Shadow Assassin form coming out from Can't Have My Red today. He was prioritizing the bot lane a lot. They are both ranged champions, so that does make sense. So I do think that the Ross form overall is a better champion just to have in almost any composition, because it's basically a diving tank. You can spell vamp using max % health on the rest of the team. And since Anchor is going in for a Cinderhulk tank-based Jarvan build, you'll be able to sap a lot of his health in a team fight.
Yeah, well, Jarvan's coming in behind in the bot lane.
Yeah, speaking of the Jarvan, he's going to use the Cataclysm to force 420's flash out, but can't have my red. The Shadow Assassin form, look at the damage that's being pumped out. He's annihilating the bot lane, and Anchor's being left to scatter. Actually, he gets a return kill on the 420, a little missight from the Ezreal there on how much damage he could take, but Insane Vein, they go down to can't have my red. Now it's a 3 kill and 2 assists on the Kayn. This Shadow Assassin form Kayn is going to be destroying squishies on Summoner's Rift.
Yes, now something that I just noticed before that fight, when Kayn went back to the shop, he originally opted for a serrated dirk instead of those mobility boots. He didn't have any boots at all, but then he quickly undid that buy and got the boots of mobility. And honestly, I think that was the difference in that fight. If he didn't have any boots, especially the boots of mobility, he was not going to get to that fight in time, and J4 and Tristana could have easily just cleaned up that fight. So those boots might have been the saving grace there.
Yeah, going from basically no additional movement speed to an additional, I believe it's 125 movement speed. Pair that with the Shadow Walk on Kayn's E. That's a lot of movement speed, being able to just rush down to the bot lane. And I completely agree with you, Fisher. That was... I've never seen a purchase be so life-saving before.
Yeah, especially when it comes to boots. I've never seen boots be so important. You see in low bronze all the time that no one buys boots, or not. I shouldn't say no one. It's just a lot of people like to not even buy boots because it's like they don't do damage or they don't provide stats. Look at right there. That boots of mobility purchase. Not only does it give you no stats besides movement speed, that just got him a double kill. Or got him a kill and an Alistar a kill rather, and prevented his own team from dying. That just shows you how important mobility is in this game, especially when you're an assassin.
Yeah, and especially in team play. Yeah, and solo queue. Oh, actually, Melamash probably should go down to Heats, but he does have the flash. Heats does not feel like using his own flash, wants to hold on to it in case something happens. Anchor comes up to the top lane and wants to be able to use it as a defensive tool. I respect the conservative and safe choice to go to. He still has a lot of pressure onto Melamash. Probably can force the TP from Melamash as well if he wants to protect his top lane from going down first brick. He does have the Tiamat and the pickaxe and the longsword, and if Melamash doesn't answer, this should be a first brick, but Anchor is here on the top side of the map. He's going to go in. The parry will be able to block out the slow, but the autos from Red Buff are going to slow him down. He's going to use the Grand Challenge for the guy and get some healing up, but doesn't even have a chance to get the last vital proc. Anchor with the shutdown.
Yeah, that was a very close one right there. If Fiora was able to get that last vital proc, all of a sudden that just turns the entire fight. So it looked like the Fiora is actually doing a lot more damage than the J4 there for a minute, but...
Oh man, Shadow Assassin form Kayn just does so much damn damage. Completely, absolutely annihilates the bot lane again. Another double kill for himself. 5-0-2 on this Kayn, but can't have my red, doesn't have really anything else. He's gonna have to flash away from Brady Hash. He's holding on to the Hemoplague, does not use it quite yet as he realizes that there's too many members to fight off. Did force out the Kayn's flash, that's all he's gonna be able to deal with. But this should be first brick going over to Titan Esports on the bot side of the map.
Yep. And meanwhile, it looks like we have Anchor trying to get that Rift Herald. We mentioned last game how the Rift Herald actually got buffed this patch, and it offers a lot more damage for every charge attack, and it also takes less damage every time it uses that attack. So yeah, it looks like he's gonna pick that up for free, and then I wonder if he's gonna try to get that Fiora down for Kled, and then let's drop that Rift Herald down there.
He definitely could, and will be able to try to equalize some pressure that Heats is starting to put onto the top side of the map. He has finished the Ravenous Hydra, so he's going to have not only a lot of damage, but also a lot of sustain, being able to opt in for even the most unfavorable trades against the Kled, and as long as he doesn't all in, he can just sustain off the minion wave.
Yep, absolutely. Now, if we take a quick look at the ADCs, we see a 25 CS lead on the Ezreal, right? But, oh, that's, oh, wait a second, that might have backfired.
Oh my god, what am I watching?
What is going on?
Hemoplague going down on the floor, but it doesn't look like it's the engage you really want. The Major and the Slews are going to try to favor this. Cataclysm locks up too, but it's just the frontliners. They are doing some damage because Insane Vein is actually just hitting from the side and no paying attention, but he's not doing any damage either. Anchor has gone down to Swain's ultimate, but what is happening? Can't Have My Red went too far under the turret, didn't have the team backup, and the kill from Insane Vein was enough to keep him alive and get the shutdown kill on the Can't Have My Red.
Absolutely. Now, you see that Titan Esports already got that tier 1 bot lane, so that's something that that's something that Team 9 is going to have to deal with. They're constantly going to have that priority pressure because the wave is going to start pushing back towards Team 9 a lot faster since it's going to be bumping into that turret, whereas it's not going to be bumping into the tier 1 tier Team 9 anymore. So now you have Titan Esports, who's already starting to group mid and try to siege that tier 1 mid.
Indeed. We'll have to see how the other team counterplays that. They don't have as many ultimates as up from before to start another engage. They're gonna have to wait on those cooldowns. Looks like Anchor is gonna opt in to use the Rift Herald on the bot side of the map. 420 does not have enough mana to be able to sustain against this push. He has slews on the bot side of the map as well, but if they don't defend this Rift Herald, they're gonna be able to do a lot of damage with it. Actually, oh no. Alright, so one other thing about the Rift Herald that we didn't get a chance to take on. Yes, it takes less damage when it hits the turret, but it's also easy to kill. Whenever you hit the eye, it does, I believe, 40% also of its HP. So it's not only super easy to take down turrets with it if you use it effectively, it's super easy to kill it, making it, if it's a poorly used Rift Herald, you're not going to do anything with it. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yes, the idea of it was that they want teams to respond to the Rift Herald more often, because now that it takes less damage whenever it does a charge attack, it's able to take down more turrets. With that being said, if you respond to it, you're able to kill it a lot easier.
Oh.
That tier 1 top right now is just hanging on by a thread.
Yeah. Looks like the Major was able to take the first tier turret in the mid lane, whereas Insane Vein and Akarium traded onto the bot side of the map. 420 has recalled and now has a full mana pool, but will not be able to contest the dragon along with his team. This will be the second dragon of the game, and Ocean Dragon going over to the side of Team 9. And as they have a lot of sieging power with this Tristana, and of course the split push potential from Kayn. Or Kled is what I mean. Oh, actually, the Swain is over here on the top side of the map, and Melon Mash is not in a good spot here. He has the flash, but it's not going to even matter. There's so much damage coming out from the two solo laners here from Titan Esports, easily able to take the Yordle down.
Yeah, at some point you got to get that up. We saw Swain try to give a mid-wave a little bit of a shove, and because there was so many, so we were able to see Swain start to move towards the top lane. So at that point, when the turret only has 100 HP, you might want to just recall and give it up, because it's going to go down anyways, so you don't want to give it like
Akarium might be in a bad spot here. He does have the support from Brady Hash in the same vein. Can't Have My Red is trying to get a lot of damage here, and the Brady Hash is going to elect to might be able to chunk Can't Have My Red out of the fight. He's not raw, so he cannot spell vamp off of this. Sleuth is still positioning aggressively because he has Heaths here to try to start off another fight. And look at that 3-man headbutt pulverized combo, but on the backside of the fight, Anchor's going down, but he suicides the Can't Have My Red. Brady Hash is going to go down to Fiora. Ezreal picking up a kill onto Akarium on the backside of the map. Blues going in for another headbutt pulverized. That was a weird interaction, but doesn't matter. Kled's gonna die. That's a double kill for Heats. That is 4 members down on Team 9, and Titan Esports are looking to do some major damage while they have time.
Well, I learned something today. You know what happens when an Alistar flashes onto Kled, tries to pulverize them, and then the Kled tries to ROA? They both knock each other up.
Oh, is that what happened? Oh,
yeah, that's exactly what happened. Alistar flashed right onto the Kled, got in front of him, so Kled couldn't escape because he instantly stops as soon as he bumps into an enemy champion. So that knocked Alistar up, and then the Alistar couldn't exactly get his pulverize off because of that.
Gotcha. Okay. They were able to get the second mid-tier turret. Oh no, Anchor, you don't hear my the flag and drag. You have the flash, but you gotta make it out of there. There it is. Can't Have My Red also trying to flash in after Anchor. Will not get the final blow onto the jungler from Team 9, but more pressure being even put onto the jungler from Team 9, and Can't Have My Red doing a lot of work on the Shadow Assassin Kane right now.
Yes, absolutely. It's something that we got to keep in mind. Although Team 9 looks like they're very far behind right now, I would say that they have equal, if not better, scaling composition. Kane, regardless of what point in the game, is going to be able to one-shot a Squishy. We know that. But once the gold starts getting closer and closer, the Tristan is definitely going to outscale the Ezreal. And then the Vladimir, I'm not sure about the Swain, but I'm pretty sure, I know Vlad is very good at the game. I'm not sure if he's as good as Swain.
Wait, speaking of the Vladimir, he's going for an engage onto the front line from Titan 9 Esports, but here is the Shadow Assassin King, Can't Have My Red. He's going to be able to take out one. That's 2 members down. That's 3 members down. The Grand Challenge healing up all the damage carries onto the side of Titan Esports. What seems like a favorable engage coming out from Team 9 gets immediately scuffed by Titan, and they're going to look to push here onto the mid lane.
Yeah, when you're this far behind, you can only start farming for so long. At some points, you're going to have to start taking some chances, otherwise they're just never going to come back. They're just going to take objective after objective. So, although that looked like a favorable fight for them, it didn't matter.
Oh, man. His gold lead is starting to accelerate even more and more for the side of Titan Esports, looking at a 10K gold lead now for Titan. Usually, whenever you see 10K gold leads at this point in the game, Fish Food, there's usually no coming back. However, there's always a chance.
Yeah. That being said, though, we have seen Kane get deleted in a fight previously. So if they're able to shut down that Kane immediately, that might be able to give them that advantage in that fight. But that being said, we see the Ezreal ahead, we see the Swain ahead, we see the Fiora ahead, we see the 3-0-10 Alistar. So it's going to be very difficult for them to come back at this point, especially with the turret 6-1.
I completely agree. But if they were to do it, I would imagine it is going to come down to how Anchor and Brady Hash play these engages. And if Melamash is also there to start the team fight with a great speed boost, you can get Brady Hash and Anchor onto these carries, these damage dealers. Because if you look, Brady Hash does have 2 great mobility items in the Shirelia's Reverie and the Hextech Proto Belt. And if he's able to land a great Hemoplague onto all of the important members, or practically all the members of Titan Esports, as they're almost all carries at this point, you can delete them with the damage amplification that Hemoplague does provide to the rest of your team.
Absolutely, and if we take a look right now, they're all in one single bush, and we know that Team 9 has no vision of that bush right now. So I wonder how long they're going to wait there, or if they're just going to walk away. But we see Janna and Tristan are really close nearby.
Well, the Airy proc does snuff out, and I don't remember if Tornado gives vision, but does alert them that someone was there. They're going to have to step away from that Fnatic Death Rush.
So although if we take a look at the bot lane, and although it's not super serious, we see that huge wave that's contesting that turret right now. Oh, and it looks like Ezreal's just going to clear with an easy ultimate.
Actually, they're looking for another engage onto the Major. It has flashed away to safety, and Ezreal's being unprotected here. Also has the flash away from Flood. The Major is going to use the Zonius to try and buy some time. That's a great Monsoon, keeping everyone away from the backline, but here comes Can't Have My Red. It's not going to be enough work from Ikariam. Unfortunately, as great as that Monsoon initially was, the real damage dealers, Can't Have My Red and Heats, coming in with great flanks from both sides, demolishing the rest of the team. They're going to flash on the Melon Mash. That's the 4th member down. And Fish Food, I think this should be the end for Team 9.
I agree. What looked like such a great fight for Team 9 just turned into such a poor fight. We saw Kane all the way at the blue buff, so far away from the fight. Didn't even come right away. But as soon as he entered that fight, he just turned that fight around and gave the victory to Titan Esports.
$21-5, 51.2k gold to, I believe it was 37,000. Practically a 14, almost 15,000 gold lead coming in from Titan Esports. A crushing defeat spearheaded by Can't Have My Red's Shadow Assassin Kane.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. We talked about earlier how the red cane is usually the go-to, but when you're 2-0-1 on cane that early, Shadow Assassin doesn't sound so bad, and we're proving right here how good it can be when you absolutely one-shot Tristana, when you one-shot Janna.
Indeed. Just could not stall long enough. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our second show match. That was Titan Esports versus Team 9. And it looks like as we move on to our second block of the evening for Risen Esports, we will be swapping out with another pair of great casters. So just a quick thank you from me and Fish Food here. It was a wonderful time being up here casting for you guys. We hope you enjoyed it, and we're always open to constructive criticism. Please feel free to DM us within the Risen Esports Discord if you're already on there. I think I can speak for both me and Fish Food. We are both fairly new casters. We are looking to improve our ability and develop our craft as well. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us, guys. And then he said, Roth.
She was everything.